All right, well, thank you for joining us tonight. This is St. Louis Writers Guild's author series for July. We're here with Robin Tidwell, the author of Recycled is the latest one coming out, but we'll get to the others soon. Robin Tidwell is the author of Reduced, Reused, and now Recycled, which will be released here at the end of July. She lives in St. Louis, Missouri, with her husband and their youngest son. She has a rather eclectic educational background and finally finished her BA in Interdisciplinary Studies. She has held a plethora of jobs, appointments, and volunteer positions and tries very hard to make it through 1 week at a time without a crisis. She is, beyond that, also the publisher of Rocking Horse Press.
Yeah.
Okay, just make sure I get that right. And she's the proprietor of On the Same Page Bookstore, which is where we are right now. Thank you all for coming tonight. We truly appreciate it. We've got a crowd here tonight. For those of you who don't know, the series is broadcasted live online, so if you are joining us, feel free to type your question in the chat box, or if you would like, you can tweet us at St. Louis at STL Writers Guild with any of your questions. We'll get them that way too. Just so you know, if you don't have a chance to see this, or I guess you're not there, you're probably not watching it live. But anyway, we're going to post this on the net later, so you can see it as many times as you wish. Without further ado, we'll get to the interview here. I do have a couple of questions, actually. We'll start off talking about your books, actually, here. So this is the third in your series, which is pretty impressive. I wanted to give you a chance, at least. We'll start off with Reduced, to talk a little bit about what your books are about, and some of the great people out there.
Okay. Well, the first one is Reduced. Make sure it's all... There we go.
There you
go. The first one is Reduced. It is adult women's dystopian fiction.
Okay.
That is the most concise description I can give of it. I kept hearing all about the Hunger Games and this and that, and I thought, that kind of sounds like fun, although I did not read any of them until I finished my first book. I didn't want anything to interfere or inadvertently plagiarize, so I waited. And I thought they were awesome. I think mine is too. It has sold well, and so I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't think the kids should get all the fun. I thought that women should be able to go out there and, kick butt and take names and save the world, so to speak, although there really isn't a lot of saving in the first one. A lot of people die.
Well, that happens.
Well,
it's dystopian.
I had a great time writing it. What can I say? It came out the end of last August. The second one, we'll do that too. Shameless promotion.
Yeah, you must.
Yes. Reused is a continuation. I'll just say at least one of the main characters continues in the second book.
Well, that's good.
There may be a few others, hence the title, Reused. I don't think I'm very good at titles, but I had a theme, so I went with it. Therefore, the third one is Recycled. Oh, and Reused came out December.
Excellent.
Mid-December last year. So Recycled will be out in 9 days.
9 days. That's
Lord
exciting.
willing, and the creek don't rise. And that is probably going to be the end.
Probably the end? That's a good thing. Okay.
Probably.
A teaser there. If you write her a lot and tell her you love it, you might get a fourth out of it.
Well, I do have one or two fans, and they may want me to go on. So we'll just kind of see. But there will not be 3 books in a year's time next year.
Okay.
No.
I don't blame you with that at all. Okay, so one of the unique elements of your book is the setting, and in particular your familiarity with Missouri. So how did you come about picking all the areas you chose, getting the details down for...
Well, you may have read in other interviews that I got hungry one night, about 9-10 o'clock, and I ate some chips and salsa because it sounded good.
Okay.
Which, at my age, gives me very strange dreams, and that was the catalyst for Reduced. I dreamt about this girl who may have been me, probably not. I don't think I'm not that cool. Anyway, she kind of got into a little dust-up at a convenience store. But it was eerily deserted, and I thought, wow, And I could see that convenience store so clearly, and I knew exactly where this person in my dream, who turned out to be my main character, I knew exactly where she was going. And that was a camp.
Okay.
Which does exist in Jefferson County.
Okay.
So most of the first book takes place in Jefferson County, and a little bit into West St. Louis County and into the city itself.
Okay. Very cool. So did you check out these areas, or are you just familiar with them from being here in Missouri?
I am very familiar with the camp. I
Okay.
attended as a child. I worked there as an adult, which is all kind of worked into the first book.
Okay. That's good.
And, I was born at St. Mary's Hospital, which makes an appearance in the second book.
Okay.
And all the places named do exist. Some of them are not. Okay, I should say all the places mentioned do exist. Some of them are not actually named. Lawsuits and all that messy stuff. But the directions are accurate. The streets are accurate.
Very cool. I love accuracy.
I'm
It's very
pretty
nice
much
when you
just
can
a
walk
stickler
the
for
footsteps
that.
of a book.
I think so too. Maybe I should give a book tour.
There you go. A book tour through Missouri. I like it. So what prompted you to then write the Dystopian series? Is there some message you want to convey through that, or is it just you wanted to kill off a lot of people and that's a really good way of doing it?
Well, that was fun. I won't lie. That was fun. It was very cathartic. And it's a little political. A little bit.
Okay.
What's interesting to me is that whichever side of the political fence a person sits upon, they think that's what the book is about. And that's not exactly how I meant it, and probably the final, probably recycled, is a little bit more political.
Okay.
A little bit.
Nothing wrong with that. And people seeing that just shows you're a good writer. They can pick their own thing up. So then, how did you create each book? Is there some grand outline to this whole thing, or has each book come out of the next? Has each book come out of the ashes of the next?
Reduced took place over a period of about 10 years. Not all the 10 years was documented, but that was pretty much the time period of the book. But I needed a little something more, so I added an epilogue that took place 5 years after the end of the book.
Okay. And
that kind of left things open. I had quite a few people, surprisingly, say, "But what happens next?" Well, I didn't want to disappoint them. I hate to say no. Gets me in a lot of trouble. I wrote reused in 30 days.
Oof. Okay, that's a quick read.
Procrastination is my specialty.
So where did recycled come from then?
Well, it wasn't quite finished.
Okay.
Recycled moves into the Chicago area. Everyone's passingly familiar with Chicago politics. That does play a role. And a good friend of mine, actually, who lives in Chicago, we had never met. We knew each other online. She read Reduced. She thought it was awesome. She said, you definitely should continue this, but you should have this other character who coincidentally shares my middle name. So I kind of wrote the second book for her, and it took off, but then I had to wrap it up.
Yes.
I mean, you have to have a happy ending.
Okay.
I won't say recycled. The ending of recycled is happy, but there's happy parts.
Okay. Well, that's good. Happy parts.
And not as much death.
Well, and they do call it a trilogy. So.
Well, yeah, you have to have 3 books in a trilogy.
Exactly. So how have you connected with your readers then? How have you found good ways of connecting with your readers? Since you've got, obviously, readers who connect back with you. So.
Well, I'm not sure.
Obviously, you have a bit of a, you're here with the readers in the bookstore.
I
That's
am.
wonderful.
I'm not up here as often as my husband. Thankfully, he's my biggest fan, which he should be. If he wasn't, there might be other issues, but he's my biggest fan, and he never gets tired of saying, "You should look at the book my wife wrote." And I know that's why, you know, I have gotten a lot of sales that way. But word spreads, and you know, I've done well online through our various websites, through the publishing house. We do both of these books are carried at several local bookstores. They're available online everywhere and in all formats. So I totally forgot the question at this point.
So let's talk about it. June 27th is the release date, right?
Yes.
Okay, for Recycled, so do rush out, grab that. Obviously, you can run up here to All on the Same Page Bookstore and pick it up, I'm certain. But what do you have planned for the release? Anything? Any marketing tips you want to share, or you want to keep them all close to the vest?
No, we do, just like for my books and all the books in the publishing house,
Okay.
we do a lot of, you know, we get interviews done online, we do a lot of tweeting, a lot of Facebooking, we do giveaways. We usually have, you know, a pretty decent party. Cake, punch,
Okay.
sometimes wine.
Good release parties are always good.
You know, we'll have a lot of giveaways, you know, survivalist equipment and a few other things.
Excellent. So then, since we're on the topic, I'm going to ask, so you live in every writer's dream, basically, of owning a bookstore. But, you know, what made you choose to start All on the Same Page, and does reality even compare to the dream?
Well, like many things in my life, that was kind of a fluke. My husband came home from work one day. He's been in retail all his life, 60 hours a week or so, and he came home and he looked around my office and said, "We should open a bookstore." And I said, "Wow, that's a great idea. When can we open?" He said, "Open what?" I said, "A bookstore. Let me make a website." So I made the website, cooked dinner, came back, said, "When can we open?" He said, "What? Are you serious?" I said, "Yes." He said, "No, wait. Let's make sure we're all on the same page." Oh, great name for it.
Okay.
So anyway, he said October 1st. That was July 22nd. We opened October 1st.
Excellent.
I don't like to wait around. If I have an idea, I'm going to run with it. Kind of like the books, you know. Dream versus reality. I knew going into this that it was retail.
Yes.
I've been married to a man in retail for, I don't know, a lot of years. I know it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hours, but when it's yours, you can control that to some extent. If it paid more of the bills, that would be better. I knew going in I wasn't going to sit around and read books all day, to be honest. But since I started the publishing house, he's pretty much taken over the day-to-day operations.
Okay.
I'm still involved with the events. I do the marketing, advertising, and the bookkeeping.
Well, then, a quick plug. So if you are on Olive Boulevard and find yourself, do check out All on the Same Page Bookstore. The address is actually just below the video. It will be. So do check it out there. The other thing I wanted to ask you then, obviously, you started a press. You started a publishing house. So what made you decide that, or did you just want to cover all your bases?
Well, my big dream is to have an espresso book machine.
Huh?
Sitting right up in front of that window.
Good dream.
The money fairy's not yet left me $100,000. But when that happens, that's first on the list.
Okay.
I was actually getting ready to write Reused. And I had self-published my first book, and we all know how that goes. You can self-publish and people turn up their noses. You can make up a name and say published by such and such LLC or whatever you want to call it. Anything you want. And people know. And I thought, fine, I'll just start a publishing house, and hey, then I could publish other people's books. Because boy, when you do your first one, you learn a lot. Someone should give me a PhD in something at this point. Plus, you know, I was procrastinating writing that second book, and
Okay.
I got a little bored, so I just kind of did it.
Okay. How many books have you guys put out?
6.
6. Excellent.
6. January, March. January, March, May, June, and July, and of course the last 2 last year. So
Excellent.
I think that comes to 6.
Okay.
We have another 6 or 8 scheduled between now and February.
Very nice. Are you guys open to submissions? Can we tell you the people to go to the website and look?
We are taking submissions right now for Missouri St. Louis oriented ghost stories.
Okay.
That will be published in October, and probably late September we will open to general submissions again.
Excellent. So you heard it there. Check out their website for submission guidelines, details, and more. All right. Excellent. Well, then I do have more questions for you. Before we get to the online questions, we actually have several. We'll get to those in a moment. So this is kind of my James Lipton question, if you want to call it the inside the writer's studio or something. But who is your favorite literary heroine or hero?
Heroine or hero as opposed to writer?
No, writer. Either way,
favorite...
be a character or writer.
Gee, I'm going to have to fall back on my old standby, Margaret Mitchell.
Okay. Excellent.
I read Gone with the Wind when I was 8. I thought Scarlet was awesome. And, gosh, especially having written a couple of books, anyone who can write a hardcover this thick has got my undying admiration.
Yes. Definitely something to be said about that. And then the second part of that, which goes to the actual writing, which line gives you more trouble, your first line or your last line?
Can I pick C, all the lines in between?
Sure.
Okay, because that's it.
Okay, hey, nothing wrong with that. I like that. Good answer. All right. So that's the end of the James Lipton portion there. But so in terms of your writing style, since this is for St. Louis Writers Guild, and we're talking to a lot of writers out there, do you work off an outline? Do you work, do you just kind of go by the seat of your pants and start writing thousands of words at a time?
I do both.
Okay, that's good.
I start off. I know what the story's about. I know who's in it initially. That changes, and then I write. I tell the story. I get to a point where I'm so confused about who's what, where, how they got there, that I make notes. Then I lose the notes and I go back to writing.
Okay.
That's pretty much how it works.
That's a good system. I have no problem with that. Excellent. So then the other question I wanted to ask in terms of writing, obviously your books are sort of centered around world building. You've created something new. So how is your world different from the world around us beyond being a dystopian? And did you find any real challenges to developing this world?
Well, as far as science fiction is concerned, I think I kind of cheated because I used an actual place at some undetermined time in the future. It's not, the year 3042 or anything like that. It might be next year. It might be 10 years from now. But since I'm set in real actual places with real actual distances to travel, actual buildings, even if a lot of them blew up, I don't know how it's different. I mean, dystopian fiction, you usually have people in a situation, but you haven't necessarily walked them through how they got there. Might be a couple paragraphs here and there giving you background. But this actually starts at the very beginning of how everything went to pot.
Okay, well that's good. Take the reader along on a journey. Let's see. I always like that. So I'm going to jump now. We have several questions coming in from the web, and I want to get to a couple of them. So, what, in your opinion, is the hardest part about writing a series, as opposed to a standalone novel?
Probably the timeline.
Okay.
And remembering how the last book ended, so you can continue on. I did refer back a lot to the first couple of manuscripts, once or twice. I'm hoping there aren't any glaring errors in that respect, because I'm sure somebody will find them and point them out to me.
It will happen.
Yes.
All right. So then it's, I guess we already asked this one, are you a pantser or a plotter? So you're kind of a both?
A little bit of both, yes.
Nothing wrong with that. So then what is your method to create and dig deeper into your characters' personalities?
Wow.
Especially your main character.
All the tough questions tonight.
Apparently. We give you good ones from the web.
I really just kind of feel it. That sounds lame when you say it out loud, but I think writers will understand that you just kind of become the character, you know. And when your kid hollers from the next room, "Hey, what's for dinner?" You're like, "Wait, what?" That happens, but that's pretty much it. I become the characters. It's just like when you're around a group of writers and you're talking shop. Your personality comes out one way. When you go to church, it comes out a different way. When you are dealing with permits for your business with the government, it comes out a third way. Whatever people you're around, that's how you act a certain way and you talk a certain way. That's what my characters do too. I just have to become each character as I go along.
Okay. To that end then, so the characters that you have killed off, obviously they're kind of personal to you. Are any of them based on real people? Anyone you know?
Most of there are...
That you're willing to talk about?
Most of the characters in Reduced, there are 12 main characters initially, before everybody dies. A lot of people die. I don't mean everybody... okay, whatever. Read the book.
Exactly.
Read the book. They're kind of an amalgamation of a lot of people. I might pick one characteristic from one person and another from another person. I just, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, except, like I told you, my friend that lives in Chicago,
yes.
Allison. She'll probably watch this.
Okay.
There is Allison in Reused, and it is based on her.
All right. Well, that's always good to know. It's always fun when people are in books.
Right.
So then, I'm going to open it up. If anyone here in the audience has a question they'd like to ask Robin, feel free to kind of raise your hand, throw it out. Yeah.
Sure. Well, last February, I was running a panel for some AAUW folks, and it was to be on women's fiction. So I asked you, Brad, for a recommendation, and you said, well, you have to get Robin, right? And so, of course, I have a lot of questions because Robin had a problem with her back and her leg, and she couldn't walk, and she didn't come. So I have questions for you. And one is, if you had 3 books that you could take with you to a desert island and just have those books for the rest of your life. We know one would be Margaret Mitchell's book, Gone with the Wind. Well, what would the other 2 be? A dictionary, maybe? What would you take?
I do like to read the dictionary.
I do too. Words are wonderful.
Stephen King's The Stand.
The Stand.
3.
Very long.
One more.
Big ones.
I could pick a lot, but only 3. I'd probably take Reduced.
Excellent. I like it.
I like that answer.
Good answer. You do like the thick books, though.
I do.
Credit there. I love thick
do.
books, too. Anything that's going to take me like a month to read, I'm very happy with. Yeah.
I have a general question for all writers, really, but given how much has been written in the world already, what is your interest for sitting down and telling another story about people?
Well, I like to think my books certainly have similarities to other books, but yet they're very different. Because I think every book is different. Unless you sit down and, copy one. Then it's not different. You get in a lot of trouble. I think everybody has a unique spin on it. Someone else could take, for example, Stephen King's The Stand, rewrite it, and it would be different. Even following the same, the same plot lines, the same characterization.
It would be different, but are you sitting there imagining the story that you end up telling?
Yes.
How is that the drive?
Yes. I think so, yes. Like I said, I put myself into each character, that's how I know how they're feeling and what they're doing and their motivation for doing things. It's a lot like acting. It really is, I think, from what I've heard actors say about their work. It's a lot like acting, only I'm not getting up and doing anything, although it would be really fun. But I'm writing it down. I'm telling other people about it. I like to tell stories.
Is there a defining moment in your life when you said, gee, Robin, you've got to write a book? And if so, when was it? How was it? How did it happen?
Probably when I first learned how to write. I'd make up these little booklets, that were scotch taped or stapled together, and I would scribble little stories in them. And I've always done this. Well, the books got bigger, it wasn't the little bitty pieces of paper anymore. But I always wrote stories. I took a lot of writing classes, journalism classes, creative writing, high school and college. Went down to the St. Louis Globe-Democrat when they had their journalism thing for high schoolers and everything. And yes, that dates me because they went under a long time ago. But I've always done this. And when I had my youngest son 15 and a half years ago, my husband kept telling me to write a book. So he got me a computer so I could write a book. And it still took me another 12 or 13 years. The original one is still sitting there. It's my epic, my Gone with the Wind. Might take a few more years to finish it.
So you took like 1 month for one book and 13 years for a different one?
Well, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that happening. That happens a lot.
Actually, the first one took me 6 months. I wrote about half of it in the first month, and then, life got in the way like it does, and finally in July last year I said, okay, I'm going to finish this by this date. And at 10 o'clock that night, I typed the end and sent it out to my editor. The second one was 30 days. This last one is going to be like 3 weeks.
I'm impressed. 3 weeks. Ooh.
I'm tired.
Yes, you should. You should be tired. All right, I do have a couple more questions actually coming off the web here. So as a publisher, what do you look for in a manuscript then? What's that one thing that's going to hook you, catch you, that you see it and you know?
First, I look at writing ability. Not everybody has the ability to string words into a coherent sentence and create interesting paragraphs. Some people do not have the mechanics down, but their stuff is interesting. I look for good writing. I look for a good story, and I look at marketability.
Okay.
Those are the 3 things.
Okay, insights from a publisher. That's always good. And then also, how do you edit the setting to symbolize either the theme, the characterization, or the actions? Since you're writing dystopian, you've got a very heavy setting.
Well,
does that come through?
I think so. If you've read Reduced, or if you haven't, very quickly you will find out that what appears to be the St. Louis area right now is not going to be. I hope it does. I try to use not just the words, but the style. I've been told, and I felt it, that the style of writing is what sets the scene, sets the suspense, shows despair, I guess.
Okay, and then finally, or as a reader, what are you sick of seeing on the shelves? And obviously, you see a lot on the shelves. So, is it vampires, no more vampires, or is there something else you're like, no more of?
I actually don't read vampire stuff.
Okay, well that's
Not
good.
because I don't necessarily like it, just there's so much other stuff to read.
Then let me ask you this: what do you want to see on the shelves more of?
Oh, good writing, original stories.
Okay.
A lot of, I'll go out on a limb and say it. A lot of what the big 5, 6, 7, 4, whatever they are now, whatever they are this week, they seem to churn out a lot of the same stuff. Very similar stories with different names on them. I'm really, really proud of our local author section here at the store. We have a lot of St. Louis authors who have fantastic ideas, great vision, are excellent writers, and they're very underappreciated because they're not with a big house. And, I love to discover those writers, the good ones. But I'll be honest, a book has to be really good to hold my attention these days. There's so many choices, and they're all right here.
Yes, and they are all right here. And you guys do. I hear you guys are almost close to 100 local authors now,
Yes.
which is very impressive. And we love that and support that. Excellent. So does anyone else have any last questions? If not, all right. I'm going to say a huge thank you to Robin Tidwell, not only for hosting us here at All on the Same Page Bookstore, but also for joining us here tonight so you guys can hear about Recycled, which is coming out in just a couple of days. Do check that out, and I highly recommend you come up here and check it out. We're up here at All on the Same Page Bookstore at 11052 Olive Boulevard. Do check it out, and come check out the local author section. It's quite huge. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We truly appreciate it. You all have a wonderful rest of your night, and you'll see this all on the web here in a bit.
All right. Thanks for having me.